my mouth and the meditation of my heart be always acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. Amen. I'm okay. I'm really okay. Jesus is engaged in a rabbinic debate. In this case, after he's silenced the Sadducees, and a lawyer comes to him and is trying to trap him, and he's testing him, and he's saying, which commandment in the law is the greatest? And Jesus quotes from Deuteronomy, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbors yourself. And that we heard today from Leviticus. We're reading from Leviticus. And that was a discussion at the time, and is a discussion also for us. How do we understand the love of God, our love of God in our lives? How do we deal with the fact that our priority is loving God? And it's interesting that the passage from Deuteronomy, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, and all your soul, is putting into a positive expression the Decalogue, the Ten Commandments. Thou shalt not do this, thou shalt not do that, a list of things for how we express in our lives our faithfulness to God. In this case, it's about how we understand ourselves and understand one another in the world. You shall love the Lord your God doesn't necessarily mean only feeling. In our popular culture, the word love has been narrowed down to really mean passion. And this passage makes clear that love is more than feeling, or it's not just a feeling, it includes feeling, but it's all your mind, all your intellect, all your thoughts, all your soul, your whole being, not just how you feel at the moment, not just your emotions. And with your mind, your thoughts, your intellectual being, all these are focused on God. Paul Tillich, in the middle of the 20th century, expressed this in another way. He talked about, in The Courage to Be, he talked about faith, that everyone has faith. You wouldn't be able to get out of bed in the morning if you didn't have faith, that there was ground under your feet. And in our culture, we're encouraged, our hyper-individualistic culture, we're encouraged to put faith in ourselves, in our own achievement, what we have done, what we can do, who we are. It's an individualistic focus. And Tillich says that faith in God, it's the ground of your being. It isn't your exclusive concern, but it's the basis of all else that you do, that you put your priority in your understanding of God, that is what guides you in your life. And that may seem a little abstract, like how does one do that? And the example that comes to mind to me is someone also in the first half of the 20th century who is a great hero to Protestant Christians and defined for the 20th century how one places God at the center of one's life, and that was Dietrich Bonhoeffer, a young German who studied at theological seminary in the late 20s and early 30s, went back to Germany and founded the Confessing Church. This was when the Nazis, after 1933, when the Nazis had taken over and had made the object of worship the Nazi Party and the German state. And churches were required to have the German flag in the church, the Nazi flag, Germany over all. And Bonhoeffer started this church, the Confessing Church. They met in secret. There were Christians who did not put the state first, that put God first. And of course, they were criticized by the government and the clergy, and they were in a lot of trouble. And people in New York who loved Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who'd been a wonderful student, invited him back to New York and offered him a professorship at Union Theological Seminary to save his life. And he came back to New York and was there about 2 or 3 weeks when he decided that he couldn't do that he had to go back to Germany and support the Confessing Church, support those people who were opposed to putting the state first, who had as their first priority, love your God with all your heart, all your mind, and all your soul. And he also knew that this meant that he had to be a part of the protest against what Hitler was doing, particularly the persecution of the Jews. And he joined with a relative and some of the others in the army who were planning to assassinate Hitler. And he knew that he did not believe in violence, but he also knew that in these times, what he needed to do was support this movement to stop the persecution of the Jews, the Gypsies, the mentally handicapped, and to stop this threat of war that was looming in Europe. And the plot was discovered. He was put in jail, and he was executed. He was 39 years old. He was executed in 1944. He was someone who lived his life according to the idea of love your God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul. And he knew what he was facing, and he redefined Christianity. He talked about the way of the cross, that the cross is central, that it's uncomfortable for us, it's dangerous for us, it's difficult for us to live out our faith in God in a culture that is hostile to that. And the second commandment is like to it, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. This is from Leviticus that we heard today. And sometimes we get confused. We think it means we have to like everybody and be nice to people we don't like. But we've known enough people who are nice when they really are thinking something else, and they really don't feel nice, but they're, gosh darn it, they're being nice. That's not what love your neighbor as yourself is about. It's not about liking everybody, and it's not about not being real with people. It's about valuing people as children of God. Each person is deserving of my respect. They're not necessarily deserving of my liking them. I like some, I don't like others. They're not deserving of my being nice all the time. Sometimes the people that I really am in contact with, I need to be honest with. I need to express what's really going on, and if I'm critical, I need to be able to say that. But it's respecting their integrity as human beings, the fact that they too, each individual is a child of God. And Jesus also says that we need to love our enemies. Again, we don't need to like them. but we need to regard each and every human being as a child of God. This is a challenge for us in our culture that is getting more and more polarized with hatred and rage. And, well, I'm going to tell you a story, and then I'm going to comment on it. It's a small story, something that happened to me. I was at someone's house at a little party, and I was talking with someone that I knew slightly. I've known for a long time, but I've not known well. And he asked me about the bar chaplaincy, so I was explaining to him that, well, we have a Roman Catholic priest, we have 2 Anglicans, we have someone who supports the Buddhist students, and we have an imam for the Muslim students. And he says, oh, does he teach students how to make bombs? And I didn't know what to say. I was dumbfounded. And finally I said, if you knew him, you would never say that. He is the kindest, most peaceful. His mosque is dedicated to interfaith, to unity among all people. You wouldn't say this if you knew him. And then I thought, well, that was such an unreflected response of his. He wasn't really thinking. He was just mouthing what the popular culture was saying, what everyone was saying, that we're supposed to hate our enemies, and our enemies are what? 1/3 of the world's population of people who believe in another religion, that they're obviously our enemies. I think not all of us, maybe not any of us, are called to the kind of courage that Dietrich Bonhoeffer was called to. That we don't live in those kind of circumstances, and that's probably not who we are. I know that's not who I am. But I do know that the very least we can do as people who believe in God, who call ourselves Christian, is not to engage in unreflected anger and rage. And it's very easy to do. I mean, I have buttons that get pushed. Talk to me about the press, and I can rage on about how they're all been bought off. And the same, I had an uncle who used to rage about those scoundrels in Washington. And, you know, that's really just our own personal rage that is attaching itself to something out there that annoys us. And we aren't really thinking. I mean, not all journalists are corrupt, and not everyone in Washington is a scoundrel. It's not looking at the whole situation, and it's not taking responsibility for ourselves. We don't have to do that. I think that when we engage in that kind of thing, when one of our buttons are pushed and we express our rage and anger, we're contributing to the atmosphere of anger and hatred in our country. And one of the things we can do is withdraw that, not do that, not indulge it. It's self-indulgent. It's like gossip. It's fun to gossip and say mean things about people. We don't have to do that. We can call back, recognize within ourselves our own need to do that and not do it. We can, as Christians, make an effort to pull in some of the rage and anger that's out there in our world today. We can love our neighbors as ourselves. In the name of God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.